Good evening. I'd like to call the LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission January 29th, 2020 meeting to order. If everybody would please stand for the pledge again. Joe?
Yeah, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Introduction. The LaPorte County School Corporation Board ex officio member is Jan. How do you pronounce your name? Riberty. Right. We're going to call you Jan. How's that? Welcome. Welcome. We appreciate you being here. Mary Jane, roll call.
Randy Novak.
Here.
Joe Core.
Present.
Dr. Cora. Terry Larson.
Here.
Scott Cooley.
Here.
Mike Mullenauer.
Present.
Michael Rosenbaum.
Present.
And Jan Riberty. Here. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda, and we have a couple things to add. You have a resolution in front of you. There's no number on it. The number is going to be 2020-1 since it's our first resolution. So we're going to add that under new business. If you look down on the agenda, item number 13, that'll be C on the agenda. And then we're also going to add the renewal of Mr. Friedman's legal contract for the year 2020, and that's going to be item D under new business.
Item D.
Item D. Does anybody have anything else they want to add or take off?
That's good.
We get $1 for every phone that rings in here, so every time Is that your all right, so
Mr. President, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as recorded.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next item on the agenda is election of officers. So what's the board's pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion to reinstate our present board, Vice President Randy Novak, Vice President Joe Core, Treasurer Mary Jane Thomas. Is there any others?
Secretary.
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 You? Yes.
Yeah, you secretary. I'm being president here to president.
Yeah.
Second. So we have a motion and a second to keep status quo.
Correct.
Does that anybody have any other nominations, please?
No.
Terry? No. Oh, no. Okay. All right. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, I guess.
Thank you. It's an honor, by the way.
Yes, it is. I appreciate it.
It really is.
Public comment. Is there anybody on the public like to speak? Anybody from the public would like to speak? Anybody from the public that would like to speak? Hearing none. Communications. Is there any communications, Mary Jane?
There are. The communications, if I can find them, are somewhere. Oh, here we go. The communications, you've already met Jan, the school board appointment. We have distributed all the meeting schedules to the media as required by law. Matt and I have been meeting about the EDA grant. You've already received in your packet, I think, the email from the legal counsel on the MOU with the project at KIP. Okay. Worked with the county auditor on the invoicing and some advertisement documentation that she requested. And I attached to your packet the Radke Engineering annual letter that indicates that there are some changes at Radke Engineering that are going on. All right. And then that's it. That's your month.
Sounds good. Minutes from our last meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Next item is the treasurer's report. I think Mary Jane handed that out. If you'd like to go over that.
All right, let's do it. You have your year-end balances that were just provided by the treasurer for you to look at that show all your income and your expenses. And that can be summarized as follows. Your starting balances for 2020 for the KIDC TIF is $169,509.40. Your starting balance for the US 421 I-94 TIF is $210,133.26. Your starting balance for allocation area number 2 I-94 421 TIF, which is paying off the agreement that you have with Holiday Corporation, is $244,500. And then the 39 North TIF starting balance is $69,998.48. The claims that you will review and approve today are not included in these balances. They'll be charged on the February balance sheet.
Right. Is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is claims in the docket. The KIDC TIF. We have the following expenditures: Thomas and Associates, $689. MCR Partners, January professional services in the amount of $3,000. Friedman and Associates, January legal service in the amount of $1,500. Herald Argus legal notice for November 19th, the amount of $5.16. Barnes and Thornburg, September 19th legal, $262.50, and October legal in the amount of $5,565 for a total in the KIDC TIF of $11,021.66.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there any questions on any of these expenditures?
I'm just looking for one of the bills, that's all.
Yeah.
But don't let that stop.
Yeah, there's a description on the back on that Barnes and Thornburg for 5,000. So
You want us to hold off? Or
No, we're good.
Okay.
I said, I found it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. 421, number 1, TIF, Thomas and Associates, December 19th, professional services in the amount of $689. MCR Partners, January 2020, professional services in the amount of $2,000. Artero Group, Deercroft, Development Phase, $875 for a total of $3,564.
Move to approve.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions on any of these? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. 39 North, MCR Partners, January 20th, professional services in the amount of $1,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Just so the public understands, if you hear some of these items are being paid several times, the fees and the structure for some of these payments are split between 3 different TIFs. So the total amount is right, but we just pay a portion of it out of each different TIF because these individuals are representing all 3 TIFs. So that's why you see that. So the total claims today that are being paid is $15,585.66. Thank you. On to old business. Construction Rail Planning Committee update. Matt Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. prior to this meeting, we held a rail committee meeting, and they put forth the following recommendations. One, that the Redevelopment Commission consider and approve the IDC grant agreement. Two, that the Redevelopment Commission review and approve the Eldon Rail use agreement for the temporary access to the Kingsbury Industrial Park. Did I cover it all? Sorry, there's two. The other item discussed in that meeting had to do with the process for the appraisals for the CN right away, which the board's aware of, and had authorized us to move forward. We have those. Our legal team will be reviewing those as we go forward, and we'll make an offer. An offer will be drafted for this board's review, and then would go forward to the property owner for consideration.
So we should hear more about that one maybe next month.
You should have an offer to make next month. That's my
Good.
goal.
Does the
I don't see why we shouldn't.
okay? We got the grant application under new business. You're giving a report on that. Then we'll actually vote on the grant.
Yeah.
Is that only on the rail?
Yes, sir.
All right. Next item is 421 I-94 TIF project.
At this point, after we met with the pipeline company, it seems we're at a standstill. And when I say we, not us, we being the pipe company and the developer. We had a nice meeting there, and Tony was there, and they had their legal team there and their engineer, and we had a real nice discussion for 2 hours until we got to the bottom of it, which was in my review of our discussion, simply this. The pipeline company, have legal obligations that we need to meet, and that is spelled out statutorily by the federal government. We intend to meet those requirements. And what does that mean in layman's terms? We aren't going to spend any money until we have to. What does that do to the Loves project? They have some heartburn about reworking projects and pieces of investment they've made at their location. They have heartburn about business interruption that might occur as a result of a mandatory pipeline change that as a result of it. How does that relate back to the Redevelopment Commission? A couple things. One, I've asked that Love strongly consider moving forward with the project. We know that the pipeline is estimating their expense to be $5.1 million that they have to do sooner or later. So it's up to them. I mean, I fully expect them to follow the law, what it says. And it says that they have to act 2 years after they're noticed.
They have to start 2 years after the notice.
So theoretically, if somebody starts something, builds it, and they come in and say, okay, well, we gotta do our thing now. Is that logical? Probably not, but it's they're following their rules, and that's what we were told. So that's unfortunate, but we have pressed Loves to move forward. I think it's the right thing to do. With some discussion with some construction companies, there's ways that we can construct a parking lot that's going to have a minimal impact on ripping it out, or I think there's some cost-saving methods we can utilize so that when the pipeline company, following the law, decides that they need to replace it, they can have easy access. So it has minimal disruption in business, and they don't have a negative impact on the developability of the total area. Okay, so that's the goal, is to get them to go forward. Along those same lines, I've asked that the county engineer do one final review of the water and sewer documents, and that we consider going forward bidding that out in March. I would like to know what the number is to avoid any miscommunication about the costs that may be incurred as a result of the expansion. Now, how does that relate to the TIF and all that? We got to go through that. Loves needs to happen. If it doesn't, then other funding sources would have to be identified. Other developments would have to be considered in that area. As you've heard from Vladimir from Ascend, they have alternative ideas. They have 3 hotels that have planned. They have letters of intent, but none of that happens without sewer and water. And that is the bottom line.
Do we need to check with the city of Michigan City and make sure that there's no change. I mean, with the change of administration, that there is.
I'm glad you brought that up. Within the next month, I'm going to certainly reach back out to Michigan City. There's been some change in the water department. The sanitary district is the same. We would hope that those two groups within the city would honor their previous agreement. We'll make sure that that's the case.
There'd be nothing wrong with getting quotes for that work, would there?
No, that's right. But I think the commission has taken the position as a hard stop on any further expenditures until we get a commitment on the Love development. So I think that's a prudent position to take while we're continuing to look. But certainly to authorize Matt to continue to have discussions with the city, we're going to need to know if they're willing to renew the agreements and the commitments that were previously made.
Do we need to give a
So
motion
this
to
would be
that?
all done, just so you're aware, this would all be done internally. We're not going to hire. We've already paid for the engineers.
Do you need a motion to proceed?
I think it'd be helpful that perhaps the commission goes on record reaffirming its support for doing a project, but again, initiating some communication with the city on
Get some hard numbers.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with getting the quotes for the sewer and the water extension, and to go along with that, a little more research is done and update with the city of Michigan City, make sure we're headed down the right path. I think that would benefit all of us if we knew for sure what that was really going to cost instead of just guessing.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. I agree totally because I think it's imperative because if something does start, we're going to need to kind of jumpstart this thing pretty quick. So it'd be nice to have some hard numbers. So anybody have any other questions or comments regarding that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Let me ask you, Matt, and I don't necessarily see it on the agenda. The other development across the
I was going
street.
to touch on that right now because it has to do with the same TIF district.
Right.
We got off to a pretty good start with that potential truck sales and service center, and they engaged a law firm to start looking at the TIF and how to set up a separate allocation area. We went so far as to draft a preliminary resolution for consideration of this body to create a separate allocation area. I've since heard back from the company, and they have I guess more of a significant financial challenge than they want to deal with at that site. And I guess, and just to lay it out, their cost per acre to cure that site to make it buildable is not within their budget for what they had anticipated, and consequently, we're working with that company to make sure they can find another spot. We've told them, obviously, they know across the street is available as an alternative to Love's. It is a $5 million investment. Love's is 19, so that has an impact on the amount of new TIF money to service the debt, obviously. But it's also a first start project, so that's a good thing. The other options we laid out is we have another TIF district at 39 North. There's land available. It's zoned for it. It's on a highway. It's on a heavy haul route. It's available. It's served by sewer and water. And they're looking at it. So we're trying to keep that ball up in the air.
Great. All right. Next item is 39 North Water Tower.
I'm going to defer to Mary Jane to kind of go through where we're at with the what is it? EDA grant. Too many acronyms today.
Matt and I have met twice to begin putting together the application to the Economic Development Administration to help fund the water tower on 39 North. Right now, we've reached out to the industries or the developers in the area because we have to show proof that there will be job creation and investment. And the best way to show that is to contact the people who have been marketing that site. Vice versa, we have to be able to show those projects that were not and did not go forward because there was not adequate fire protection at the site. And we've already begun the outline of the application inside sams.gov, and that's where we're at as of today.
Should indicate too, the 39 North Board, it looks like it wishes to pursue this on a parallel track, again with the support of the Redevelopment Commission. Essentially commissioning, and they're very pleased that Mary Jane and Matt are working on the EDA proposal, which would go to the feds. but the 39 North has also retained a governmental affairs consultant, Matt Norris, with Krieg DeVault. And they have had very favorable discussions with Indiana Finance Authority about the prospect of financing from the state. And so rather than pick an alternative at this point, their district wants to pursue both options. Let's see how far we get with either option. But a very encouraging meeting by 39 North's governmental affairs consultants with IFA. Jim McGough of IFA was very supportive. He understands the notion that this water tower is critical to future economic development along the 39 North corridor. And so 39 North is going to be pursuing both options. Figures let's go on a parallel track, see where we can get, we'll see what we're getting traction with. But again, the signs that Mary Jane's getting on the EDA application are encouraging. And again, the prospective signs that 39 North is getting on IFA stepping in as well is also encouraging. So generally pretty good news.
Good.
Wonderful. Thank you. 35.
Mr. Chairman, before I go to 35, our TIF district, or the proposed area, if I could back it up a little bit on 421 and 94. You know, when I was talking about the other site in Whiteford, you know, their attorneys here, and I didn't mean to, and you guys probably, or some of you do, recognize Phil Facenda, and he's been around here for a long time and actually helped me set up all the TIF districts. So his client was the one considering the development on the other side, and until we hear back from them, you know, like I said, their cost is difficult. I mentioned that we have a cost relative to the water and sewer that we can't really help them as much as we would like to on that site. And until we hear back from them, but the idea at the time was to create that separate allocation area for that project, meaning this. I guess you look at it, right now we have two different areas on 421 and 94. One of them, if you draw a circle around the medical facility for IU, and then the rest. This would draw another circle around these guys for a couple reasons. One, we want to insulate that project from risk to the county, and two, to allow his client to buy the bonds if they chose to. And those were the discussions we were having about it. And it got, like I said, it was real encouraging until they got a bit of bad news on the site. So I don't want to pull the plug on it, but we're going to continue to try and work with them. So it wouldn't surprise me if they came back in an alternative location at 421, or they showed up at the 39 North TIF area. Both work. Is that about covered, Phil?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think from a housekeeping standpoint, perhaps this is the point where we may want to address, as you know, Phil Facenda and Barnes and Thornburg have regularly advised the Redevelopment Commission. They're involved with us heavily at this point, for instance, on the condemnation action on the property in KIP, and continue to do ongoing very good work for the Commission. We need to make of record that the Commission does not have an objection to Barnes and Thornburg also representing Whiteford, a potential applicant, until and unless the interests become adverse. But it would be helpful to get on record the fact that the Commission does not have a problem, and these kind of waivers are important to have as long as they're express and made on the record before the Commission. I'll let Phil address it.
So members of the Commission, Phil Facenda from Barnes and Thornburg. So Whiteford has been a longtime client of our firm, and so, as you know, we've also worked for the Redevelopment Commission and the county for years as well. And they contacted us and asked us to assist, and my law partner, Rainer Rampolla, has been working with Matt and with the county to move this along. And we're hopeful, albeit Matt's latest update, we're hopeful that we can still that Whiteford will be able to put a project into the county. So, given that, I had called Shaw and discussed with him the fact that we would like to continue to represent Whiteford and assist to move the development along wherever it may be, and we would be technically adverse to the county, but we could still serve as Whiteford's counsel and as bond counsel if we ended up doing a TIF bond, as we've done other TIF bonds in the past. So still capable of serving in both roles, but we need the county to
Essentially, it needs to be a knowing volitional waiver on the record by the commission that you want that dual representation to continue.
It's your pleasure.
Well, I think we should. I'll make a motion that we proceed with the waiver and you get what you need to try to help us secure that corner.
Yeah.
Be a good thing.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you very much.
And I want the commission to know, anytime we can identify, if we would ever identify there's true adversity in the interest, both Phil and I would come to the commission and indicate that. But this way, everybody is protected on the record in terms of the project proceeding. And that's the hope, I think, of everybody here, that hopefully Whitefoot puts us together.
Yeah. Mr. President, if you don't mind, anything that we can do to help facilitate I-94 and 421 in the county of Michigan City is well worth it. I mean, we've been working on this now for a long, long time, and anything we can do to help put something out there would be tremendous. So,
Fantastic. Go
thank you.
We'll keep
Thank you.
moving that along. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Reardon, 35. Oh, let's back up again.
Yes, sir.
421 I-94.
Yes.
What's going on 421 400, the corner there from INDOT, that us acquiring that?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Chairman. INDOT's going through their process. They've been going through that process for a year. And I check back in periodically with the hospital people, Joe, and where they're at. And they're supposed to get back to me again. But really their process is they need to do an environmental review of the property to make sure they're not selling or donating anything that could be detrimental to the health and welfare of the citizenry. I can say that I don't think it should take that long, but that's their process. So in order for us to get an opportunity to buy the property or have it conveyed to the county, they have to go through their process.
Nothing new going on there?
No.
And it looks like, there's no reason that we're seeing that it shouldn't go through eventually.
There is absolutely no reason why the state should not convey that easement to the county for the purposes of beautification. None whatsoever.
Right.
I couldn't imagine why they would.
And that's about all you could really do with it.
Right.
Correct.
No new news on the Bob Evans?
Bob Evans / massage parlor / hotel, nothing in the triangle over there, unfortunately. Last conversation I had with the owner of the Bob Evans site was that I urged him to get a total proposal together to buy the hotel, to knock it down, to buy the massage parlor and knock it down and come back to us.
Alleged massage parlor.
I think it says spa.
I have no knowledge that it is a massage parlor. I just want to go on record.
The spa, and knock it all down and come back to the county with a comprehensive
Sun Spa.
Comprehensive development that it would be more likely that they would receive support from the county to do a development that would include a hotel and other things than merely a hotel. I think the council and the commission and the redevelopment commission has made it pretty clear there. But it took care of the roadway. You got access. Good luck with your hotel.
We should indicate for the record, to follow up your comment, Mr. Novak, both the health department and the sheriff's department were out at the spa within the last week, and there is no evidence of illicit activity at the spa. So that's...
Do we have a clause in our TIFs that don't allow massage parlor? No. Could we do that?
We do not do zoning.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So that's the planning commission function,
Right.
sir.
That's good news, though. That they at least got it out.
Okay.
35.
Councilman Rosenbaum asked at the last meeting about 35 TIF, and that was one of the areas that we had looked at. You have the intersection with the highway, and maybe that area could be added. So I had my partners at HWC Engineering take a look and contact people in Michigan City and do some design. The last meeting, I kind of gave you the sketch of what it could look like, and having to do with the development. And oftentimes with cartoons come funny notes, and this one is not so funny, unfortunately. It's a big dollar amount, but that's a lot of area at 35. I would say that it's my recommendation that at this time, absent a specific transaction that would go there, and the fact that I've done a lot of the back work to prepare this area to be done. We hold tight for now, unless the commissioners feel strongly to create the area. I mean, the last thing I guess I want to do is say, well, we're going to set this up, and here's what it's going to cost to service it. It's going to cost $2.3 million. Now, could I, based on what we think could be developed out there over time, would that cover that cost? Sure. But at this time, and because you have other areas that you are focusing development on, why create a competitive situation internally for yourself? That's my thought about the issue.
Yeah, there definitely is some thoughts of development out in that intersection of 35 and 20. No question about it.
Okay.
Well, one thing I had suggested at the last meeting, I think we should do to make sure, we already have a pipe problem out there in I-94 and 421. And to me, before we create another TIF area of this magnitude, it would make sense to have a map of some sort telling us what's underground. What do we have to contend with? Do we have wetlands issues we got to contend with? Just how much of that property are we talking about that we could actually build on? So before we jump into another area TIF, I'm not against it. I think it's a good thing. There is some things coming to town, but I just think we need to be aware of what's out there.
I agree. My issue is if there is something coming out there, they're going to want sewer and water.
That's fact.
It's as far as, this is a TIF is the only way we're going to be able to do it.
Right.
We're not going to be, so the council can't fund and I don't know about the regional sewer is going to run,
Right.
and now there's already a sewer running past there, but I'm sure it's too small and it seems just like going out to the 39 and 20 to the Family Express out there. They ran a sewer line all the way out there that's not big enough to do anything for anybody else. So we're putting money in the ground next to money in the ground, and we need to, if we're going to be doing these things, we need to be spending the money a lot better. So
In the way that HWC...
now, we didn't spend it. That was regional sewer.
Well, that's right, and I think Chairman makes a point. Regional Sewer District's key focus right now is on Phase 2 of the Rolling Prairie project, which is still, it's in limbo. There's some litigation there, plus they're waiting in terms of being able to move forward with that. So I would think that would be their focus first before they ever get to this.
So with that being said, I made sure that the design firm looked at capacity issues so we could not do that. It wouldn't be a specific purpose. It would be for a larger area. So I guess that you now are armed with the news and the information to go forward, and because we're able to flip the switch pretty quickly and finalize those documents and get you a redevelopment plan in front of this board within, I could do it at barely a couple weeks' notice if you wanted for this area. And we have all the underpinnings done.
All right. Thank you, Matt. New business. Consider proposed grant agreement with the IEDC to permit installation of connection switch between the county rail spur at KIP and CSX.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to defer a moment to Attorney Friedman to kind of go over the process on this, and then we can get into some specifics.
Well, this is really the culmination of 15 months of work since we got the initial commitment from the head of IEDC, Jim Schellinger, that he was committed to going forward. This has been long negotiated. There are a series of deliverables in the agreement that Matt will address, but this is a huge step forward, which I know the Redevelopment Commission has been hoping and working for. It's what the county commissioners have been working hard for. I think we've also got to salute the efforts of State Representative Jim Pressel and Senator Bahachik, who have been very helpful in terms of advancing the ball on this application. Matt and Tony's office have spent considerable time on the supporting documentation. We're also recognizing the significant, in order to leverage the grant, we had to come up with significant private sector investment to show in the application. So between a combination of NIPSCO's significant infrastructure improvements that are committed, including the $3.5 million that we talked about. That was one in the rate case. Other infrastructure work at the park. A significant commitment by JBC Rail and other developers there. We had enough of a package to win approval from IEDC. So we're delighted with that. It's good news. It's a win-win. As you all know, I mean, getting that connection at the south edge of the park. In other words, connecting our rail spur, that $6 million rail spur on the south edge to the CSX main line is key for then tying us in with the entire CSX logistics chain. And with that, of course, we're now moving on the other phase, which is trying to get connection on the north edge of the spur to the CN Railroad. This will be one of the few industrial parks in the country to have two Class 1 rail carriers serving an industrial park. So it's a huge selling point. It's exactly what this commission has been working on for years, and so we're delighted to be able to bring you an agreement for approval this afternoon.
Well, Mr. President, I'd like to commend the group that put this all together. We'll have a rail that goes somewhere instead of a rail that goes nowhere.
That's right.
You know, and I think that's wonderful. And Matt, thank you and Tony for the extra effort. And Shaw, I know you've been involved with this, and the boys downstate, Pretzel and Bohacek. I mean, it took a team effort, and I commend you for it.
Absolutely.
So we need a motion to...
Do you need a motion to approve?
Yes.
So move. Go ahead.
No, I don't care what that is.
No, you go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the Indiana Economic Development Corp. Industrial Development Grant Fund grant agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any questions, comments?
I didn't mean to cut you off. but-
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
We'll want to get execution today then on the agreement so that we can send it down to Indianapolis. As we have been, Matt and I have been in discussions with IEDC on issuing a formal public announcement, which will come out first thing in the morning, and with also some quotes from the head of business development down at IEDC, and Mr. Novak and Dr. Cora are all quoted in that as well. And so it's certainly a momentous day for everyone on this commission.
Congratulations, everybody. Make sure there's no other place that needs to be signed in there.
I don't think so.
Just not. Okay.
Yeah, we have an executed copy. I'll give this to Mary Jane.
All right. Great job. Next item on the agenda is Sender and Company 2020 agreement. Oh,
Mr.
what?
Chairman, before we get off the rail issue, I would ask the commissioners to consider the facilities rental agreement as recommended by the Rail Construction Committee. You should have a copy of that in your packet. Yes.
We do.
5,000.
No, that's the 5,000
Yes,
for
the
all.
5,000.
Yeah. Motion to approve.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. This is for an agreement. There's a group that wants to rent our rail for like a one-day period to do some testing on some stuff that they got. It's a one-day, and they're going to pay us $5,000.
Yes, sir.
So,
You know, Mr. President, I think too it'd be nice, Matt, if you could contact Jim Thompson. He's
Yeah,
the
we'll
one
let
that
him
brought that to us, and then thank him, and I think he'd be happy to hear that agreement was put forth. So.
all right.
You need a vote?
We have a motion. Do we have a motion?
Yep.
We do.
Motion and a second?
Yes.
We do.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Carry.
Thank you. Sender, next item on the agenda is Sender and Company 2020 agreement.
We have it here. I know, I've seen it.
Somebody want to speak on that? Or
This is simply a renewal of Carl's agreement. I believe the terms and conditions remain the same as last year. As you know, he has served not only as a financial advisor to the Redevelopment Commission, but to the county for a number of years. And so we're recommending approval of the agreement.
Motion to approve his agreement.
Yeah.
we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All the terms and everything are the same as last year?
That's correct.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is C, which would be Resolution 2020-01.
Just had it.
Mary Jane, would you like to read this by title only without objection?
Declaratory resolution of
Get your mic on.
Declaratory resolution of the LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission amending prior resolutions, establishing an economic development area by establishing a new allocation area for the economic development area and amending the economic development plan for such area and taking other actions related thereto.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I would recommend that the board table that resolution until we get a little bit more information from the investor company. This is related to the other parcel and creating the other allocation area at 42194. So I'd recommend we table that until we get more information from legal.
All right.
Make a motion to table.
We have a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Table. Next item on the agenda is item D, which is the contract for legal services between LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission and Friedman and Associates. The terms of this contract are the same as last year's and the year before.
That's correct.
Yeah.
For the record.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Other business? Is there any other business?
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
MCR Partners, when is the time for your renewal? You can speak to that.
It was already renewed.
It was renewed
In December.
December.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My apologies for
Nope.
Sean, when will the press release go out? Tomorrow?
Yes, we're going to be sending it out to our media list this evening, and so it's effective 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. But of course, wanted to have the commission. Commissioners have also been sent a copy of it, so yeah, we're pleased to get word out on the grapevine.
Did you put this together? Looks really good.
Thank you. Well, we worked with IEDC. Matt and I worked with them to get their quotes, and so we're pleased that it's all come together.
Mary Jane, what's the date of our next meeting? You have just for. Sorry to.
February 26th is the next meeting.
February 26th. And we'll have a rail meeting before that? Or are we going to find out if we need it?
Well,
We got some
I'm
things.
hopeful. We got some things.
We got some things. So as of right now, we're planning on a rail.
I plan on one.
Yeah.
Rail committee.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Sounds great. Any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
The motion, is there a second? Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's adjourned. Thank you.